Hello and welcome to Community Frontline number 6, and I already failed at something. Echo? Yes, I disabled the echo, just on time, hopefully. Welcome to Community Frontline number 6. My name is Richard Sursinus, and I will be your host today, because the Community Frontline takes place at my home. I just had to kick off some cats out of the room, because they're absolutely demolishing everything, as usual. So, today is a rather quiet day. We're going to take it easy. I'm going to show you some basic stats. We're going to have a little talk about various subjects, and there will be plenty of room for you guys to ask some questions in the chat while I try to play the game. Unfortunately, I do not really have a moderator this time, so I have to double task a lot of stuff, because unfortunately Vito H could not make it on time. So yeah, let's get started. It's been a busy week last week. As some of you probably already know, is that we have had the Rito Insider Summit this weekend, which was a great experience for, I think, both the invited players and us. It was really busy though, so there's still a lot to catch up on from us. So we're going to talk a bit about the Rito Insider Summit. I'm going to try to walk you through a bit of the various aspects that we had during the summit, which should be interesting for everybody to see, like what did they actually do. And during the upcoming weeks, we will also publish a lot of information which has been said there and told there and talked about. So that should be something I'm looking forward to, at least. Other good news is that 1.10 has reached its lock date, which means that it will soon enter the QA land to see what is and isn't broken and what needs to be fixed before we put it on the live server, or if there's other stuff we need to do. So that is also being worked on, which is good news, because 1.09 has just been out of the way. We had some very positive feedback on 1.09. There are some open issues which I'm still in debate with, in regards to, for example, the camera plane shake effect, which players complain about not really liking. So we are definitely still looking into that and collecting some feedback about that. So if you have any feedback about the new camera shake effect, or the reintroduced camera shake effect on the planes, because I would very much like to hear it, because we have had two kinds of feedback. One is that it actually starts too early, because it starts at roughly 60% of the speed, the total speed of the plane. So at roughly 60 of the 100%, it starts shaking the camera. So I've heard complaints like it starts too early, but I've also generally heard complaints like it's not good at all, it's no fun to play with. So it's pretty much good to hear what you guys think about that. Please do not post that in the Twitch chat, but actually please post that on the forums, so I can collect the feedback in one central place and hopefully pick it up with the developers. I have already informed them about this matter, but we need some more data, some more feedback to see like how big of an issue is this really. So yeah, that's something I want to talk to you about 1.09. It's actually been quite a while since I've been online, because the previous one I was sick, and then we had a dev stream, and we had some Q&A and Y streams in between, so it's been a while for me. To what the rate has gone from what to what? So yeah, I have to check the document for a second. Yes, but first we're going to have a look at some small RTS tests, because since the beginning of this month, roughly, we opened up, we gave everybody 30 days of veteran membership, because the servers have been misbehaving for quite a while. So to make up for that, we have been giving everybody veteran membership, and next to that we gave everybody a free deploy, which means that all your units will get a first free deploy on start of the war. One of the major things we saw with that is that the stockpile cannot really handle that, because there was such a huge amount of players actually trying to make advantage of that. So it would be yeah, it's interesting to see how much that has actually evolved in terms of deployment. So I just wanted to quickly show you through that, but first we're going to have a look at actually the latest war. The wars are relatively short right now, which is pretty unfortunate, but it's still quite interesting to see how they develop. Let's see if I can put this to full screen. Oh yes, I can. Oh, I'm so awesome. So this is actually the latest war. This is war for year 530. It lasted approximately, I think, 7 war days, which means it's only like 1.5 days in real life. But it's actually still quite interesting to see. I put it slightly at the beginning, but it keeps... I'll try to reset it one more time and then it goes to play right away. So we see the 3 various factions here, of course. And for the guys who have not seen this before, the way it works is every little thing you see pop means there has been a battle played. And if there are circles around it, darker circles, you will more clearly see that these are areas where there is actually quite a lot of battles being played. So for example, right now you see the area here at Denmark and Berlin is generally there's a lot of combat around there, or there has been a lot of combat around here. So actually, yeah, if I do recall correctly, this one was actually won by the Soviets as well. You can also see in the top right corner, you see how many attacks the US has actually won, how many towns they have, how many attacks the Germans have won, and how many towns they have, and the same for the Soviets, of course. So yeah, what we see here is that indeed the Soviets seem to be gaining some ground quite rapidly. Taking capitals quite rapidly, but once again it's a relatively short war, so you see that they're actually circumventing the US faction at Rotterdam as well, and they're progressing quite fast. So, and in the end it was, luckily, because we actually managed to fix that, the war was actually ended correctly, and the Soviets have won, and they ended with 2,494 battlefields. This is actually one of the also things which we introduced in 109, is that you can see a part of this yourself. You cannot see the actual progress, but you can see how many attacks have been won, how many battlefields you own, and stuff like that in the new bulletin shown in the main screen when you log into the game. So you can actually pretty rapidly see how the progress was of your faction. So that should be quite interesting for some people to see, and hopefully it will also encourage some more players to actually play in the war. In terms of just a quick in between, in regards to Exat Slam, which NFCNs know if Redburn have received our letter during the Insider Summit. Yes, I have forwarded it to Rita Redburn. Unfortunately, at the day itself, there was absolutely zero time to really talk about this. But he did read it, as far as I know, and I'm not sure if we will get a reply out, but it has been looked at. So that was the war. Yes, I see a lot of complaints like they want a war again. In total, for the fun of it, we have the complete list of wars. In 2015, the US won 44 wars, the Germans won 91 wars, and the Soviets won 68 wars. In 2016, the US won 23 wars, the Germans won 12 wars, and the Soviets won 35 wars. So we actually, in 2016, we didn't even have that many wars. And in 2017, so far, the US has won 41 wars, the Germans have won 2 wars, and the Soviets have won 38 wars, which brings the total on: the US has won 138 wars in total, the Germans have won 197 wars in total, and the Soviets have won 141 wars in total. Given that we have to keep in mind so that the Germans indeed in the past year have not won that many wars, but hey, they are still on top in terms of most wars won, actually. We are, however, because I see a lot of complaints like we cannot do anything anymore, please keep in mind that we're still planning to remove the war funds from the underdog bonus. That is still a plan, and we are still planning to disable the auto resolve as an experiment. And next to that, we have also been looking, as we've said before, we have like a weekly meeting together with community management, with the QA department, with the game director, with the producer, and some other designers. And we've been looking into the possibility to create or to tighten some of the choke points around the German starting capitals, meaning that should we do that, it will be a lot easier to actually defend some of the areas for the Germans, because right now there are some areas which are very open. It's the same for every faction, but the Germans really seem to struggle with that. So we are looking to tighten some of the choke points, and maybe this is all still very much on the debate. We will also open up some of the choke points, for example, between the Soviets and the US faction. Personally, I would like to look into the option to make Scandinavia on certain points a little more open, so it's easier for the Soviets and the US to engage in combat there, because it is quite important that Scandinavia is considered quite an important aspect in the war, and I think it would be quite interesting to see if we open that up a bit and make it easier for every faction to engage there. So far, in regards to us moving the Germans away from Berlin, it's actually, I think it has had some effect. Of course, we can see that it was not enough, but I definitely think it has been an improvement for the German faction. But we still have to actually analyze the data, like, did it really improve? Is it to our likings, or do we need to do something different? So then we have the resources. Of course, I gathered up the resources a bit again. See that XS Slam says Kiev is the main issue. Yeah, I've pointed out several areas right now where I think, like, either the choke point is too tight or it's too widened, and we're gonna have to have a look with the entire meeting team, like what is it that we want with this, and what are our options here. So there are actually several areas around Belgrade, around Budapest, stuff like that, where there is room for possible improvement. So the US resources, yes, I have them right here. So what we can clearly see is actually, since the free deploy, everybody has been very much enjoying that, or at least some generals have been very much enjoying the free deploy. Given that the US is actually quite stable throughout the war, or throughout the last wars, in terms of deployment. So actually, I've taken these screenshots, I believe I did today actually. Yeah, in the previous war we saw that they were slightly below 800,000, roughly 750,000 infantry deployed, and at the start of the war it all went up a bit again, so they're roughly at 800,000 infantry being deployed in the war, which is, funnily enough, quite similar to the other factions at the moment. So I'm just gonna, yes, the German resources is actually, they've had a downfall in the last war. They dropped to, what is it, 675,000, something like that. But at the start of the war, they're actually quite similar to the other factions. They in comparison to the previous screenshots I've shown throughout the time, be it that they're used or not, I mean, that's a different story, but this is actually being deployed, and there's actually almost double the amount of infantry being put on the field. So that is quite a significant change, which is pretty much also why the German faction is right now, or actually not just the German faction, is kind of complaining like the queues are so long, and it's because there's so many generals all of a sudden deploying again just to get the free war funds. So, and then we have actually the Soviet faction, which is it looks a bit different because it actually went stable up throughout the war, but actually they have also deployed roughly around 800,000 infantry, and at the start of the war they're also slightly climbing towards that number again. So what we can actually see is that in terms of actual deployment, and once again this is not usage of the assault team, but an actual deployment of the infantry, it's actually one of the most balanced times I've ever seen on the RTS map. It would of course be great if everybody used these units actively, so you really have a balanced war, but that is not something I can guarantee. So, but in terms of numbers deployed, it's actually quite interesting to see how numbers are quite balanced at the moment. And that is even that right now you can see that hold on, that some of the guys are actually, hold on, I need to do this so I can read the chat. Yeah, it's quite interesting to see that so many of you are trying to actively make use of the free deploy, despite the queues still being there. Because yes, there is queues on several of the, in particular, special types of resources. I don't think it's, personally, I don't think it's that good of an idea to up the resources right now, because it's only just for a month, and I kind of want to see if we can really maintain the amount of resources which we currently see that are being deployed. It will be fairly interesting to actually have a strong look at what available faction resources do we actually have, and how can we actively reduce the queue. But because there's also a lot of complaints of players just not doing anything with these units and just doing it for the free war funds. I'm sort of kind of curious to see how this will end up once we remove the free deploy, and if we will still see the same numbers. And if we still see the same numbers, it should be quite easy to hopefully get some adjustments out to ease it up a bit, so everybody gets to deploy stuff. At Larson159, is there an ETA for removing the underdog bonus and outer resolve? No, there is not. We wanted to have the current war analyzed again once we move the capitals, and I have to be honest here, we have been really busy with some other stuff, including the Insider Summit, so we simply did not have the time to check yet. But it's definitely still planned, and I hope at least the war fund removal from the underdog bonus is something we can do on, well, I hopefully this year, but no promises, absolutely no promises, but I hope we can do that somewhere this year. So I've just heard some good news, and that is actually that the prototype server has opened, which means that we can get to play the new encounter map. But before that, I will go through some other stuff. So later on we'll just hop on the prototype server and have a look at the new encounter map. I did actually prepare something else. 1 sec, I need to grab it. Yes. There it is. So I'm just going to take you through some of the photos of the Radio Insider Summit and explain a bit like what is the part, what has been done here. I hope it actually works. I'll just put it on full screen. Yes, that's perfect. So yeah, like I said, we had the Insider Summit this Saturday. Most of the guys who were invited, the 9 players who were invited, arrived during Friday, with the exception of Edway. Yeah, we picked them up in the early morning on Saturday to have quite a lengthy day, for not just for them but also for us. But it was, I think, really good for both of us. We had great fun, we had some serious talks, but above all, I think both of us really liked it, and we got some good ideas out of it. So I'll just grab some of the pictures, so some I will quite skip through and try to explain a bit like this is what we've done here and this is what the intention was. So this is actually one of the first pictures where the guys arrived in the office. This was actually with, on the background you see Rito Kensolo sitting next to the "We Found You" sign. Yeah, this is basically a short introduction which we have given to all the insiders, because naturally it was for all of them, it was the first time actually being in the office. So we were just like, yeah, we need to do a small introduction, like this is where you're at right now, this is how it looks like, this is how the day is going to look for you guys. They already received the schedule beforehand, but it was good to just, you know, give a quick recap, like this is what we want to do today and this is what we have planned for you. So we'll just, oh yeah, of course there were goodies, which was awesome goodies. We definitely like the goodies. So yeah, one of the first things which we let these 9 insiders experience is that our CEO, Rito.jn, has actually given them an introduction into not necessarily the game, but more like who are we as a company. So of course that is also tangled with our game, so it goes hand in hand a bit, but there is also a big important aspect of like, who are we as a company and what do we want as a company, what do we do as a company. So for the first time, Rito.jm has actually tried to explain to these 9 insiders like, what do we do, what do I do, and where are we heading to with our company. And I think that it was a very open discussion, and I'm guessing we're going to see some notes from that as well. I'm not 100% sure. There will be definitely notes of a lot of things. So, but it was a very open discussion for the 9 insiders as well, and they got the room to ask the CEO any question they would like. So, yeah, it was a bit of a rough start because there was quite a lot of information being shared, but everybody was still very energetic at this time of day. So I'm just gonna quickly skip through. So that's TM. So then we had a picture, of course, for those who wanted with the CEO. It was quite fun. So after that we actually had a talk with Rita Repjarn. So again, the 9 insiders on the couch, of course. So this was the next part of the day, is actually that Rita Repjarn shared, so not the company idea, but the general, and like, well, it is a company idea, but in what direction are we going with the actual game? So what are we planning in 2018 for Heroes and Generals? And there's a lot of things have of course not been designed yet, but he generally like shared like, this is what we want to do, that is what we want to do, and with some room for questions, like but he shared for example quite a bit of stuff like, this is what we would like to do partially with the RTS. So yeah, there was there was quite an interesting discussion as well. Not so much room for questions here because well, they got the chance to ask questions later during the rest of the day. So but it was quite interesting to share his ideas, or the company's ideas, of like, this is where we want to go in 2018 at least. Yes, I'm just gonna skip through. Yeah, and of course, yeah, a picture had to be taken with Repjarn. I think it's actually not even in there, is it? But I believe it was War Demon who got to touch Rita Repjarn's beard. It was a slightly awkward moment, but hey, you know, it's apparently there was some sort of bet or promise or whatever it was. It was a bit strange, but Rita Repjarn's beard has been touched. It was slightly awkward. So after that we had lunch. This is basically the point where everybody had the option to also meet the developers, because we actually have 2 floors in the office and not all developers were present during the first 2 presentations because they were doing other stuff, preparing for some other stuff, or simply working on the other floor. So well, we gathered up some sandwiches and everybody got the room to talk to some other Ritos. So here on this picture you see 2 of this insiders on the right, and on the left side you see Rito Blackjama and Rito Steinem. So Rito Blackjama is one of our graphic designers, and Rito Steinem is the one who is, for example, responsible for the matchmaking but also for the refactoring of the RTS. And well, as you can see, Redico Edward also had the opportunity here to share some of the pictures he has made for like, this could be interesting for map development and stuff like that. Unfortunately, Rito Dashi wasn't actually there, so but he got to share some of his ideas with the rest, and we got some data afterwards which we can hand out to Rito Dashi. But so this is actually yeah, was quite interesting. It was quite an extensive lunch. So how did they take pictures? Yes, other pictures. So here we see also one on the left is actually one of our UI designers on the both, actually I think he does right now both the action game and the other screen, so like the hero screen, the general screen and stuff like that. So and to the Desmond 6 asking, is this the new city map? No, these are drawings made by Radical Edwards about potential new maps, which was actually quite interesting to see. You brought a lot of these pictures, so it was quite interesting for us to see like what designs did you come up with. So I'll just skip through some of these questions. Ooh, we took a lot of lunch pictures. Oh, the lunch was delicious though. So this is actually, for the fun of it, this is also on our 5th floor. In the hallway, one of the hallways, we have big canvas pictures of all the vehicles we have, all the weapons we have, and actually, but that one is actually pretty old. All of the already implemented features and the features we actually wanted to implement. So naturally, there was room to look at this as well. It's so of course, naturally, we had to be in the Twitch room as well, and pictures had to be taken in the Twitch room. So it actually was surprisingly for me the first time in the new Twitch room as well. It was quite a lot changed. It looked like everybody was standing, but everybody was actually sitting, which was quite interesting to see. So this is after that, after lunch, we started a tour of the office. And in the tour of the office, we had a look at each of the developers' desks, and like most of the developers were there, so they gave a short introduction, like this is what I actually do in the game, because funnily enough, a lot of the developers walking around or working in the office, generally most players probably do not know really what they do, because they do a lot of stuff in the background. So here we actually see heck, I don't even know his reader name. Actually, we see one of the developers who has now also switched a bit to UI and other stuff. He used to do a lot of tools creation, so it was, I think, fairly interesting for a lot of the guys to see, like, oh wow, there's these developers do that, these developers do that, and most of the stuff some of these guys develop are not actually really seen in the visual end, but play a very, very important role in our development. I'm just gonna quickly grab this. Yes, so yeah, and this is the room where Rita Splixen and Rita Repjarn sit. As you can also see in the background, there's screens. We have screens at several places in the office where usually there's streamers being placed. So players who want, or developers who want, can actually sometimes follow the game and see it from a Twitcher or a streamer's perspective, which is a general interesting point for us to see how do they play and how do they entertain themselves in the game. So, but this is actually the office where Rita Splixen and Rita Repjarn sit. So the QA guy, the head of QA and support, and the game director sit here. And it's quite tight with so many of them in the same room. So, yes, after that, we split up. We split up the guys into 3 different groups. So we had 3 different groups consisting of 3 players, and in this one we see Lycrist Catkiller, we see Brendan Solo, and we see Edway. And on the background we see Rito H, Rito Colding, Rita Splixen, and Rita Repjarn. So the intention of this is to get the most out of the guys' feedback, is to make smaller portions so everybody has some room to actually discuss their ideas and discuss their community points. A lot of these points have actually been previously discussed with their clans, with the forums, with their friends, you name it. So a lot of things has actually been discussed beforehand and just pointed out to the developers. This was the tea time with Rita Repjarn. Which meant that everybody had a selection of topics, positive and negative, which they were allowed to point out and discuss. And well, Rita Repjarn, Rita Colding, and Rita Splixen were there to respond to whatever was said, and we took notes of everything, we recorded everything, so we can always listen it back and create reports out of it, so we know for sure, like, this is what is talked about, this is an issue, or this is good, this is not good. Yeah, so that is a combination of stuff being discussed here, but it was very interesting. So each of the community managers had a group, so I wasn't part in this discussion, but I will listen to the recordings later on to see what has been discussed, but everybody brought up some valid feedback points, constructive criticism, and it was a great entertaining way to interact with the developers to see what is possible. So the other thing was the play session. So the play session where we actually split the 3 guys up into individuals, so everybody had a developer standing behind him, where they had room to show and actually play the game, like what annoys me the most, what do I like the most, and we also showed them some other stuff in regards to future content, and but everybody got the room to like rage on the game, but also show us like this is what I really like. This is actually very important to us to have it from both sides, because we may have wanted to, for example, want to change something in the future, like the community really likes this, but it turns out that we wanted to change, and then like, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't change it. So yeah, a lot of valuable feedback got out of this as well, naturally. And we had, well, in between there was also the option to use Rito Cristiano's virtual reality setup, where you have the ability to, for example, sit in, I think it was the Hellcat or the Wolverine's turret, and jump on tanks and look at them in a virtual reality perspective. It was a nice extra. It's not ready for the game at all. Who knows, it might not ever get into the game, but it was quite fun, entertaining thing to do. And and this was the last one. This was the developer panel, which means there was actually quite a lot of developers. So you got Rito Sinem, who's one of the backend programmers for the server, matchmaking, RTS, you name it. Then we got Rito Lito, who's partially responsible for the gameplay programming. He's involved a lot in the tank overhaul, the vehicle overhaul, for example. And we got Rito Oxen, who is, among other things, responsible for the weapon balance, but also a lot of gameplay programming. We got Rito.hrwille, who is our lead art. He does a lot of the art, and he's now more cooperating with the outsourcing of our assets. And then we got, I don't know his name either, but he's one of our, his Rito name is, yeah, I can't remember his Rito name, but he actually is also one of our UI designers, and it was led by, then we also have Rito Vasho, of course, but I think most of you already have seen him, so he's also one of our UI designers. And it was led by Rito Blackjama, who was our graphic designer. So there was quite a lot of developers, and it really depended per group which sat down here what was discussed, but there was room to discuss literally everything. And sometimes that meant it reflected a bit more on that developer instead of that developer, but there was one of, you know, if you can put it down into kinds, then there was really one of each kind. So there was plenty of room to discuss whatever. So once we had the play sessions done, we had roughly about an hour to just relax a bit, still have a chat with the developers, you know, but it got a bit more informal, because you have to keep in mind that at this point there was already a full working day for both the insiders and us behind us in doing all this stuff. So yeah, after that we went to have dinner. We tried to mix up the insiders and the Rito employees as much as possible, but basically we had some burgers, and at this point everything was just very, very informal. Everybody could just chat with each other, and I think up until 2 AM even some of the insiders were there talking with various of the developers and having fun, but there was nothing super formal anymore. It was just closing the day, having a great time, and it was an absolutely splendid experience. So it was quite a lengthy table, because we were quite a lot of us. So I just wanted to show you guys that to give you a slight idea of what this day was about, and should we ever do another summit, it might be completely different, because there's a lot of different formats which we can use, but this is the one we use right now. And well, we collected a shit ton of data, which we are very busy actually crunching right now, and compiling and creating summaries and getting all the information out, because it is quite interesting for the rest of the community to see, but also for us. So yeah, that is something we're definitely working on, and once we have done that, we will also create reports for the community, but also a lot of internal reports, and make plans from there and do stuff with it from there. But it's quite a lot of data, so it's not going to be this week for most of the stuff, but we're definitely on it. At Geslitterd, what do you say about Ding's SDG suggestions? I'm not sure which suggestions we're talking about right now. He did send me a couple of suggestions per email, if you meant those. I had a look at it, and it's going to be part of the report as well. And we're going to have to also pull out some stats again. Because one of the things which we also shared with them is that actually, and also it's shared on the forum, is that the current way we extract the data, analyze the data and stuff like that is very time and resource consuming, which means it's not a very it requires a lot of effort to do. So we're currently working on improving this, so it's going to be a lot easier to extract the data and analyze it and do stuff with it. So, but there were some weapon balance suggestions which have definitely been put in the notes as well. It's not just actually the SDG. So I'm gonna start a quick giveaway. I see some people already typing it, but I haven't opened it yet, guys. It doesn't say close giveaway. It says open giveaway, which means it's not opened yet. But I'm gonna open it. So the command is gonna be !gold, and you should now be able to participate. And I hope it works. Yes, it seems to work. Yes, it definitely works. That looks like a good thing. And in the meantime, I'm actually, because because the servers have opened, I'm going to quickly update my client. Give me a moment. So I'm just going to quickly let this run in the background, so hopefully we can get on the server soonish. I hope it doesn't kill the stream, but it shouldn't. If it does kill the stream, please let me know. I'm not sure how well this is going to perform on the background. Yes, it seems a lot of you guys participated. That's good, that's good, that's good. So I am going to stop the giveaway in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, and I'm gonna pick 2 winners. So the first winner is going to be Striker TX. Striker TX, please type something in chat. And I'm just gonna check myself manually. Striker TX, are you alive? Yes, you are. So Striker TX, actually please send @HeroesAndGenerals on Twitch a message, a personal message. I'll just type something in chat myself, so please type me a message and I will get you the stuff, because Rito Hates is not here. He usually does that, so I will do it. And I'm gonna pick a second winner, which is Fabis_DK. So Fabis_DK, please also type something in chat so we know you're alive and well. Yes, you are alive and well. So awesome. Please also approach me or @HeroesAndGenerals in a private message, and we will get you sorted on the stuff. And congratulations, guys, for winning. A lot of notifications. Let's see how far we are. Oh, that's gonna take a while. It's probably the stream is probably consuming actual data. Yeah, sorry about that. That was like, I get notifications on everything pretty much which happens on the forum, so I'll actually you, and who was the other guy? It was you. Give me a sec. I'll just do that. So in the meantime, I'm just gonna let it run a bit because I do want to actually show the prototype server, because there's a new map on it, which should be interesting for you guys to see a bit. So I'm actually gonna wait a bit for that. In the meantime, feel free to ask some questions, and I will just grab this as well. Give me a second. Yes, there we go. Come on. There we come on. Work with me, please. There we go. It was that one, and oh, is it done? Or what is it doing? Oh yeah, it is. Oh, that went fast. Let's see. Continue. There we go. I'm already in a good account. That's good. So, is there restrictions? I have to quickly check for a moment. Do I have to be a specific faction? No. So I can just select, deselect those, encounter, mail encounter. Yes, there we go. So it is actually called the mail encounter for now. That is just a placeholder. That's actually not going to be the actual name. So I hope it works. Yeah. Yes, there we go. It is working. Is it? Seems a bit porky. Let's see if it gets us in the battle. At Ivan QFF, there is actually a lot of other maps also being in development, but we're waiting for a lot of the assets to be finished. So the new map, should we approve it, is going to be an encounter in the French terrain. And there's a lot of Soviet maps being developed at the moment, but we're simply waiting for a lot more assets. But we'll definitely add a lot of all the maps. So just gonna make sure that the graphics are set properly. Yes, they are. At Squeak 1, yeah, the microphone picks up on everything, and I do not have a like a distorter, but the microphone is not actually on the keyboard, but it just picks up on everything, and I have a mechanical keyboard, so it's quite noisy. So this is, we've been running some tests with the insiders on this map, and we've also ran some tests internally before on this map, and I'm not sure how finished it is at the moment, but this is one of the maps we would like to release. So it's a new encounter map. Reuses a lot of the assets because it is in the French terrain, but it should still be quite interesting to play. So this is actually the northern spawn. If I name it correctly. It should be the northern spawn. I'll just lower the audio a bit. So yeah, this is actually the northern spawn. So you basically fight for the town. And I'll just show you a bit. I just need to figure out. I'm not that used to the map myself actually, so it's gonna take some time to get used to. But basically, this is the center of the town, the radar, and you can move all sort of sides. So it's quite a big capture zone. Oh shit! It's wrong screen. Give me a moment. Why is it not doing that automatically? That's weird. Should be this one then, no? No, it's not. What the hell? It's this one? Hold on. Oh shit. What am I doing? I'm breaking stuff. Give me a moment. This one. What the? Yes. Is it this one? No, it's not. It is. Is it? Is it black? Is this working for any of you guys? Because on my screen it shows black. Give me more. What the hell is it doing? Give me a moment. It should actually capture it. That's the stupid part. Give me a sec. Video capture device. Well, actually, this one should be on top. Give me a sec. Yeah, let's see if this works. Or if it goes black as well. Why is it going black? Why is it doing that? Okay, one sec. We're just gonna do this differently. Remove. Yes, I want to remove it. Remove. Okay, now it's gonna go black. No, it's not. It's not gonna go black. What the f? This is ridiculous. Give me a sec. And we're gonna place it down there. Let's see if it works now. And I'm gonna relaunch the... there we go. Hold on. Just gotta relaunch now. Give me a sec, guys. We had this for like 10 seconds. Come on. Is it working now? Let's see. Why is it? Why is it showing a black screen when I'm twitching? Yeah, I'm using OBS, but it's currently I think it has to do with oh, now it works, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. What the hell? Let's see if this works. Now it works, I think. I hope. Hold on, let's see if it appears now. It appears for me now on my stream. Yes, it works? Okay, I suck at this stuff, I know. I'm sorry. Yes, so we got screen. I hope the quality is alrightish, because for me it looks like absolute horse crap. But so yeah. So it is actually a fairly large capture zone, a really large capture zone actually. I hope the quality is okay, because for me it really looks, but that's probably because I'm streaming at the same time. So it is this is in the French terrain, and I'm actually now on the enemy side. But maybe I can quickly slightly abuse my mod powers if that's enabled to, but it might not be, to give a quick overview of the map. Why is everything closed? It's not fair. What are you shooting at me for? So I'll just try to give you a quick tour. Actually, the mail is the mail name is actually just a placeholder, because it's not actually the mail map. It's just it happened to have the same name because it was created from it, but this is not the mail map. It's gonna get a different name. So this is actually still all capture zone. It's a really big capture zone. What are you shooting at me for? So I'm actually, I'll just, I'll put up another one, give me a sec. So now it's going black again? Oh no, it's not. What the hell? Strange. So it's going to be an encounter map. The idea, but I'm not sure how that's going to work in practice, was that it's going to really be the beginner map, and so the depot is gonna unlock at a later stage, depending on if it gets approved, of course, and if that's really what we want. So it works quite well with the bots as well, which was quite fun actually to see. Yeah, I need to use a noise gate, but I will not set that up right now, Berandara. I'll try to set it up for the next stream. I know my keyboard is very noisy, but I'll try to set it up for the next stream. Previously I had some issues with the noise gate, but that was also on the old microphone, so this one is quite sensitive. So there's actually quite a lot of maps in the pipeline, but this one is still in the old terrain. For the simple reason is that the assets for the Soviet terrain is still not completely finished. I should have. Yeah. I don't have the rate of fire on my G43. It's not so good as I'm used to. So it's mainly meant as a map for the beginners, but I think it's also quite interesting for the veterans. It has a really large capture zone and a lot of actual close combat. We received a lot of feedback on it from the insiders, but also from internally. So I'm not sure if this is actually the final version. That's I have no idea. But so right now I actually have the southern spawn, and before I had the northern spawn. But there's quite a lot of areas where you can just walk around in and try to find each other. So. Ow. So you can also drive vehicles in and stuff like that. It's of course, because it is an encounter, there will be no tanks, there will be no fighters, no parasite, or I think so. So for the guys saying like different types of map, like beach maps and stuff like that, that would also require a lot of new assets to be developed. So that is simply not going to happen right now. There's a lot of assets in the pipeline for the Russian maps, and once these are done, we can actually, I hope, create quite a few maps. But given that we did want to give you guys a new map, we felt that it was probably a good idea to just create a one on the French encounter then. I have a feeling I'm a bit... I have my weapons wrong for this map. I didn't set anything up. Obviously I haven't been in prototype. Ah, sandbags. So no badges, no modifications, no nothing. I was surprised I actually had vehicles equipped. There's a... Oh. Give me a moment. Just need to... Ah! Oh, he healed himself up. He has the medkit, actually. Or maybe he took it at the APC. That's also possible. Ah, that's a bad idea if they're standing right next to it. So this is actually one of the things. I can't really show that right now on prototype, but so this is the staging area for the vehicles. But if I drive to the right, I'm just gonna stand up on the hill. The deploy zone is very, very widespread. So it goes all the way to the right and all the way to the left, pretty much. So you have a very, very wide staging area where you can deploy. So you can literally come from anywhere. I'm actually not sure if it's possible to drive through this water. Yes, it is. And it's actually the same for both sides. So where did you? Oh, it's from the right. So it's because it's so wide on both sides, it gives you a lot of opportunities to actually evade spawn campers as well. And so the northern part basically comes down from a hill with haystacks, and the southern part comes to the forest and has to cover a pretty undeep river. Captain S. Price, for the simple reason that we do not have the assets to make much more maps. Not in the current system, at least. So the thing is, we want our Mr. Dashu has pretty much come to the point where he thinks that or at least the last time I spoke to him, he came to about this. He came to the point that that the current assets for the French stuff has been pretty much why are you throwing stickers at me? Has been pretty much exhausted, meaning that he would like new assets to create new maps. So once we have all these Russian assets ready, we have the potential to create a lot of new maps in probably a decent phase, but we simply need the assets and the assets are the most time-consuming process. It's like nobody wants to play a new map when all the buildings are white, or when the floors are missing, or when the windows are broken, or you get stuck in the doors. Nobody wants that. So we need the new assets. He's somewhere around there. He shot from around here. X no pro just hex X. This is actually a new encounter map. So in that regards, yes, we're going to add more maps. Ooh, it got sticky. I'm not sure how safe that one is. Des16, no offense, I understand you want new maps, but I don't think we ever promised 2017 as the year of new maps. We're doing our best we can with the asset development. The asset development has actually been, for a big part, has been outsourced, and Rito HR Willa and Rito Black Jama are taking this over to get the asset production up to speed. But for example, you've already I think we had a public places on the Brest Fortress encounter map, which is like a huge castle-like thingy, which means that that asset is really huge. But once that asset is actually done, we can cut it into smaller pieces, and we can use that for a lot of different stuff as well. And we also have like the hut types, the churches, and all that stuff is still in full development. So once that is done, we can really start releasing some maps. And the thing is, we cannot really provide an ETA on when the assets will be done. I hope we can somewhere in the near future, but I have no idea. So with a little luck, this map will be released for this year, and next year we'll for sure have new maps as well. At Bluesy0087, we have a library of assets from the old maps. That's not the case. Actually, from the old mountain towns we have assets, but they do not fit in the new game style. They have not been updated. They use way too much. They eat up way too much performance and stuff like that. So we actually do not have that many assets, so to speak. And once again, because we have two terrains now, we have the French terrain and we have the mountain terrain, and for both the terrains there's different assets, and the feeling, or at least is that for both it's slightly exhausted. So we were really waiting for these Soviet assets. But if we were to take, for example, look, because I see people crying already for the old mountain town. We used to have some quite unique assets in there, and I recently visited the map because we have like a very old build where you can actually still see it, and those assets is actually are also they are buildings which you cannot enter for the most part, and so. But if you, for example, look at the doors, you will see a black space, space or a white space, and you can fall through there, and it's horribly broken. So you cannot use these assets in our new maps because we're now in a state of the game where you simply cannot come up with that stuff anymore. So we cannot use that. So actually the assets which you see right now in the town map and mountain town pretty much are pretty much all the assets, generally all the assets that we have, and we Rito Dashi and Rito Repyon just try to make different combinations with it. I mean the old mountain town. A lot of the assets from the current mountain map were used in the old mountain map as well, yeah. But they have, for a large part actually, some of them have been quite refurbished. And we recently added like 2 new type of buildings, or 1 new type of building at the Charlie 4 in the French town. Those are actually we managed to reuse those because they used to be in an earlier version. So, but otherwise, it's not much new. Actually, vacuum cleaner, having played these old versions, and I can still boot them up, could be interesting for maybe a next stream. The game did not look much different. It did not look better, actually. Geronimo, the problem with that map and the reason why it was removed is because it does not fit with the new terrain and deploy system. So we cannot reuse it. It would have to be created from scratch. At XNO Project Hex, no, I do not know for sure if the map is going to be released before the end of 2017. I hope so, but we do not know for sure. Yeah, the broken rail bridge, or the pontoon bridge, you mean? Like the old pontoon bridge or not? Because the old pontoon bridge was actually removed because, one, it created some horrible issues. There was so much stockage there, and it was crap. And the next, it was like, for performance wise, the old pontoon bridge was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. It tore down a lot. It took a lot to load that up. It was really heavy on the performance, the old pontoon bridge. So that one also got removed. So basically, if you want something like that again, I also think it comes down to actually recreating that asset so it doesn't consume as much resources. Actually, at Luciano, I do play still on the Yemenian account as well. Not that often on the Yemenian account, but mostly I play on some different accounts at the moment, also different factions. But I prefer some privacy now and then when playing the game. At Phalacarax, how many maps are you planning to make? Well, I don't even put a number on it. A lot. Really a lot. There's a lot of maps we would still like to add. Really a lot. I mean, in general, if we look at the Soviet maps alone, it would be good to have an airfield-like Soviet map. It would be good to have at least 2 skirmish maps on the Soviet map. It would be good to have at least an encounter map as a Soviet-themed, 1 or 2 assault-themed Soviet maps. You name it. There's a lot of options, and that is just the Soviet team, and there's a lot of more teams we want to add as well. So Geronimo, in regards to the trenches and the field bunkers, to be honest, I have no idea. I do know we have some trenches and field bunkers for the, I think the mountain themed ones, I think. We used to actually have a trenches map a long time ago, but it wasn't fun to play, because once you had the trenches, you could just defend it endlessly. At Broken Shield 4, the reason why we removed the First Blood is actually because one, it required a huge amount of resources to keep it updated, because of that, we also saw that given the amount of times it was actually being used, it was simply not worth it to keep it updated. So we decided to just remove it and let it go old, so it's still somewhere hidden in our databases, but yeah, the First Blood is definitely a goner. We are, however, working on instead of the First Blood, we definitely know it's an issue that we need to improve the UI on a lot of aspects to make sure that the game is easier to understand for players. But right now, for example, if you start up the depot, you start against bots, which are relatively easy to defeat. So you can pretty much consider that a First Blood, because it takes you hand by hand and teaches you how to take the objectives and fire weapons, and the bots are like, we as mostly veterans do not have a challenge with the bots. That's a funny thing, actually, Geronimo. We've been talking about this on the Insider Summit right now. Even though naturally at some point we need to get we want to get more players, but right now there's absolutely zero focus on trying to get in new players. We do not want any new players at this point, because we know we have a lot of things to improve on. There's a lot of things which are considered broken by the community. There's a lot of issues and there's a lot of difficulties for new players. So right now we don't even want new players, really. I mean, it's good that people still try our game, and it's good that people still enjoy playing our game. That's awesome. But we're not focusing on advertising our game right now until we have fixed or sorted out some issues. And that is, I think, if you look at short-term perspective, that maybe like, yeah, we have a pretty stable player base at the moment, but on long term, this is going to be greatly beneficial for us. Yeah, Broken Shield 4, the skill-based matchmaking, or in general the matchmaking, could use some improvement. Actually, I have a document here. Okay, the problem is right now there's especially in the lower tier matches, there's a lack of players, especially given certain time zones. So what the matchmaking does at some point is it's going to widen the selection field. So as a new player, the first matches really don't matter, because you will always be matched against bots. So until you reach the bronze matchmaking group, you will only be placed against bots. So that's fairly easy, because you can just have some teammates on your side, and the opponent's side can just be filled with bots, and your side can also be filled with bots. The problem is that or the problem, it's not really a problem, but the bots only work right now on the encounter maps. So any encounter map we add will have functionality for the bots, but for example the skirmishes, if we add bots on there, they simply would not be able to do anything, or they would just get stuck in trees and walk against trees and walk in circles, because they are not programmed to have a functionality on that map, so to speak. So once you get into the bronze matchmaking, it started to get a bit of an issue, like if there's not enough players engaged in the matchmaking. So every 5 minutes, the matchmaker widens the matchmaking tier. So that means that every 5 minutes, so if you're bronze matchmaking, that means that after 5 minutes, it will widen it and it will say, okay, you're now no longer queuing in the bronze matchmaking, but you're also queuing in the silver matchmaking, in this silver matchmaking group. And after 10 minutes, it will make sure you matchmake against everyone, which means that after 10 minutes, it will decide if you have not found a battle yet, you're going to be engaged in the silver matchmaking group, but also in the gold matchmaking group, which means you can end up against veterans, which is pretty shitty as a new player, but we do want players to actually get into a battle. So next to that, there's the ping stuff. It's always will try to find a battle for you with a good ping. So what it does is, if it cannot find a proper ping battle for you, every minute it will widen the ping time criteria, and after 8 minutes of waiting, you will matchmake for all hosting centers with a ping time below 250 milliseconds. So after 8 minutes, regardless, or if you're from the US or from, say, Brazil, if they find a battle for you on a European server with a ping of less than 250, it will matchmake you in. That is to ensure that you actually do get into these battles again. So, and then after that, there's another one. There's also a skill-based matchmaking. Every 15 seconds, the skill level is widened, and after a maximum of 5 minutes, you matchmake against everyone. So if you're a really bad player and there's nobody else around you who is on your same level, every 15 seconds it will slightly widen that criteria. Like it will search, like in a group, it will try to enlarge the group you can search in. So you will, in the end, after 5 minutes, you get the chance as a new player, for example, if you're not good at the game, you have a chance to be matchmaked against anyone, which means you can be matchmaked against the best players in the game, so to speak. All of that is actually in place, so you actually get to be in the battles, and this is not optimal because it is not fun for a new player to be matched against fully geared veterans, but at the same time we cannot let them wait forever either. It's not fun to wait for 30 minutes to find a battle either. So there's a big issue here, is like, where do we draw the line? Where do we make sure that they get a battle, and where do we make sure that they get a fun battle, which is on their level? And that is that is something which we have to look at, of course. It's there's a lot of things we have to explain better in this regard, any regard for that matter, but that is actually quite a high priority for us at the moment. So Geronimo 553, if you look at the population of a faction, and if we look at the war population, then we're talking about 48% of the war players are German, or are on the German faction. So in terms of overpopulation, it's quite big. And we know that, for example, the incentives we use to switch to different factions appear too late, because as a new player, you pick your soldier, and generally that's a soldier you stick to. So once you unlock war, that is the point where you will see what the underdog bonus is and what the downsides are of being on, for example, the German faction. And at that point, there's not a lot of players still willing to switch because they have already leveled up one of their soldiers. So there's a lot of room for improvement there as well, to make more clear to newer players like what the downsides are of going to the German faction. And I don't think we can ever take away that the German faction is more popular. I don't think we can ever take that away. It's as far as I know, pretty much the same in every World War II game. But I definitely have hope that we can try to further balance out the numbers. It's not bad if the difference was only 100 players, 200 players at the same time. It is bad if the difference is 600-700 players at the same time. That's simply a lot, and that's a lot of players which cannot get into the battles they want to get in. Are we gonna fix that I get a heavy play match as Germany in stage if I'm always like 1 versus 4? Yeah, that is actually a fairly reported issue, because there's a lot of reports about, for example, the P-38 Lightning being overpowered, and we came to the conclusion that the fighter itself is not necessarily better as its counterparts. Actually, it might actually be slightly pretty much the same or weaker. I'm not 100% sure, but what we can see is that the numbers used in terms of P-38 Lightning versus, for example, the rest of the heavy fighters is much higher. So the P-38 Lightning is being used much more than the other heavy fighters. So, actually it's 4:30 already, so the prototype server is open, guys, if you want to. It's prototype.heroesandgenerals.com. You cannot access it via Steam, but you can access it. Just type it in your browser and you can download the client. Feel free to have a look at the new map. I personally think it's quite fun to play, but have a look, provide your feedback, because that's what we want. Just tell us what you would like. Yeah, make sure to check it out. And next week there is going to be a Q&A and Y stream with Rito Repjarn, and I'm guessing Rito Gargamel or Rito Blackjama. And the week after I'll be back with the community Frontline. So yeah, have fun, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.